Hello and welcome. Now, Hugh Grant recently revealed that his favourite movie of all time is The Sound of Music. Now, this apparently is a cause of much embarrassment to his wife, but it seems he's far from being alone. The iconic film topped a 2023 Mother's Day poll as the most loved film. So what makes The Sound of Music so special? Well, Bryony Wood, who grew up loving the movie and its unforgettable songs, believes that the Christian themes in the film shouldn't be overlooked. And in her lively and insightful new book, The Sound of Musings, Bryony explores the role that faith plays as she deftly traces Maria's journey from flibbertigibbet nun to mother and wife. Prompted by the story, songs, and characters of the film, each short chapter takes a look at a different aspect of love, life, and faith, and what they might mean for us. The author Bryony Wood is coming to St Mary of Charity Faversham on the 27th of June at 7:30 to talk about her book before going on to appear in Tunbridge Wells on the 1st of July. Now, ahead of her coming to the town, I caught up with Bryony via Zoom. So, as Maria would say, let's start at the very beginning.
There's a film of a very similar title, which you may be able to guess is inspiring for The Sound of Musings. And it was a film that I grew up with, a film that I've loved. And I also realised that actually loads of other people love it as well. At first, I thought it was my guilty pleasure, but apparently everybody loves The Sound of Music. So this is a book that's inspired by that. And it's a way of using the film to think about life, love and faith.
One of the first things we have to discuss is the film The Sound of Music and why it touched you so much, why you felt so inspired by it.
Well, it's not a film that I've sort of spent years and years watching every week, largely because my family weren't they didn't particularly like it. And every time I put it on, they go, "Oh, will you turn that thing off?" So, as I say, I thought it was a bit like my own guilty pleasure. I first watched it when I was 8 years old. And until I was about 14, it was the only piece of vinyl that I owned. It was the only record that I owned. And so it was the only thing I ever played. So I knew every word of every song. And I used to stand on the coffee table and perform it to anybody who would come to the house because, I've always been a bit of a drama queen. So I decided that that was a good film to have. And I had an Edelweiss necklace and my grandmother made me a white dress with a blue satin sash. I had the whole thing. But it was, I've forgotten your question now, but it was something that as I started to look at it, I had never recognized it as being so rich with Christian things to think about. I mean, I knew it was about nuns. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be Maria. She had something that I wanted. There was something about her. She wanted to know what God's plan was for her life. And I wouldn't say that I was brought up in a Christian family, although I did go to Sunday school. And I knew that there was God, and I knew that it seemed a good way of living life, but I didn't know how to do it. So there was something about Maria that I wanted to emulate, and I really wanted to wear curtains and run across the hills and twirling and singing. So yeah, there was something about her that really inspired me.
Of course, in the film, Maria is a nun. Doesn't work out terribly well being a nun, does it? So she goes to, is a governess the right word to describe the role that she takes on within
Yes,
the on-track
yes.
family? And she doesn't initially fit in there, does she? But she perseveres regardless.
It's interesting because there are chapters about all of those things, how she's labelled a flibbertigibbet, a will-o'-the-wisp and a clown by her superior nuns who think that she's just not making the grade. And actually, there's a lot about that I also understand because I've got things wrong over the time and I've had to learn. I've had to learn how to behave as a Christian and learn what it means to believe and get things wrong so many times. But actually, the way that I think that we do it when we're trying to please God, as opposed to pleasing other human beings, means that he's standing on the edge, clapping and applauding whenever we get it right, and just sort of scooping us up and helping us get back on track again when we do get things wrong. And so there's a whole chapter about, learning what it is to do it. and the nuns perhaps trying to understand from their perspective. And as we see, they're on her side right at the end, and that's one of the glorious things that they do. They're cheering her on as she walks up the aisle when she finally marries her handsome captain.
Now, of course, in all films, there have to be the bad guys. In this case, they're very bad guys because the family Von Trapp, it's set during World War II, and the Nazis want the head of the family to go to war. In your book, how do you interpret that good versus evil aspect that we see in the film?
That's a really good question, because, as you say, this is set in 1930s Austria as the war is brewing, and you can see it rumbling through. There's a chapter that I talk about, and I'm just trying to find it. It's called "You Must Help It," because it's when Rolf, the telegram boy, comes to throw a stone at Liesel's window to catch her attention when he's delivering a telegram to the captain. And that telegram is to call him into service in the Navy. And Max, who's the friend there, he kind of says, you've got to let this young lad just do what he wants. You've just got to let them think it'll sort itself out. Just keep your voice down, Georg, the captain. Just keep going. Just don't make any ripples. He's obviously wanting an easy life. And the captain turns on him and said, no, you must help it. You must stand up for what is right. You must be the voice that's ready to be counted when you see injustice, when you see things that are wrong. So there's a whole chapter about what it is to stand up, even if it's an uncomfortable place to be, even if it's perhaps going against the flow. Sometimes as Christians, we're called to stand up for what is right, to give voice to the voiceless and those who are oppressed. So we talk about that, and then obviously there's the bit where they're escaping, and there's those interactions between the soldiers and the leaders of the soldiers, and what's going on. And there's some lovely scenes in that which we explore in the different chapters, and how God takes them through that time and brings them safely through to the other end. Although that's a bit of a plot spoiler if you've actually not seen the film for a while.
You talked earlier about the record. I must confess, my parents had that record as well, with Maria running through the mountains of Austria on the cover there. And there's a lot in the film, isn't there, about perseverance and also maybe about vocation as well, because Maria doesn't give up. She almost does without giving away too much, but she does persevere with the family and with all of the children. And she finds the vocation through music, doesn't she?
She does. It's music that is the tool that she uses in order to be able to build a relationship with the children. And then in another chapter, we see how music is what softens the captain's heart again. And that's, again, there's a lovely scene in that. And I've called it the turning point, because it's when we see how all the relationships change and soften. And the captain, who's been living in grief for so many years since his wife died, suddenly the softer side of him comes out through music, and he sings with the children, and then he sings Edelweiss at another time. So yeah, music is very much part of it, and it's the glue that kind of holds this family together, and the love that they feel that they can express through the music.
And in your book, when we reach the point of the film where the family get away, without giving too much away, they escape the Nazis, how do you interpret that in the film? What do you think we can learn from that aspect of it, about having succeeded, having struggled, but then having achieved freedom?
Well, what I talk about in that is it's chapter 51, and it's called The Walk to Freedom. And it's that way that we can look back and see how the characters have changed. The captain's no longer distant, austere and severe. The children have discovered the love of life and music, and Maria is no longer a disorganized, naive, novice nun. She's become the wise and loving wife and stepmother and has captured the hearts of Georg and his children. And then we can see the image as the film is finishing of Georg, Captain von Trapp, carrying Gretel, presumably because her little legs couldn't carry her anymore. And that image reminds of me when I feel that I can't keep going. I'm just too exhausted, and God has and will metaphorically carry me too. And the family are following the father, trusting that the path he is taking them on through the mountain will be the right path. The climb may have been fraught with danger and exhausting, but the prize of freedom and safety is worth every ache along the way. So there are lots of things in there that we can think about and talk about, and that alongside all the other chapters has got a link with the Bible. And we do that. We know that God has never promised us an easy life, but he does promise to walk with us no matter what. And so that image of the Von Trapp family walking to freedom across the hills as the music soars and the credits roll, then, you know, shows us what has happened in this film and how it's all come. And the credits, the rolling credits of all those people involved in the film. And so I talk a bit about all the people that have been involved in my life, getting me to where I am now. And all of us will have so many people who have helped us along the way, who are part of the rolling credits of you know, everybody's life. There's so much in this film.
I found the film quite emotional, actually. I've seen it numerous times. My parents loved it. As I said, they had the record. I think they even bought it on VHS back in the day when a VHS tape was the thick end of about 40 quid to buy the film. Is there any particular part of the film that really touched you? What did you find the most emotional and powerful part for you as a Christian?
Probably, I mean, the thing that always gets me, my heart is in my mouth every time they're hiding, and they're locked behind, you know, and they're hiding behind the tombs. Every time my heart goes a bit faster. But actually, there was something that I discovered that I hadn't really that really affected me when I was looking at it, and I've called it Grace at the Table. And it's the very first night that Maria's arrived at the Von Trapp family house. She's made a very less than favourable first impression, and she arrives rather late to dinner. And when she gets there, she goes to sit down, but the children have put some kind of pine cone on the table. So she bounces back up, and the captain is less than amused. And she starts to say thank you for all the help that the children have given her that day, because they played a joke on her by putting a toad in her pocket, and they've given her they gave her the wrong name. So they haven't actually been particularly helpful in welcoming her. But she starts to say to them how wonderful that they knew that she was new and it was a big thing to come to a house. And she thanks them so much for all of the help that they've given. But of course, the children know that they did the very opposite of that. And the more that she talks blithely on, ignoring all them starting to sob and looking really concerned, and it's a really lovely moment. But what it shows us, it's grace. She's not giving them what she deserves. She could have got them into trouble, but she didn't. She didn't give them what they deserved, which was a telling off. But actually, that she's showing grace and mercy at that table. And then she reminds the captain, of course, that they shouldn't begin their meal without giving thanks to God. So that word about grace at the table has got a dual image: the prayer of thanksgiving, the grace that we often say before a meal, and also the grace that she shows them, which mirrors the grace that you know, I'm believe passionately that God has for us, not giving us what we deserve, but giving us many, many good things in you know, instead.
And you're coming to Faversham, to St Mary's Church in Faversham. What were you presenting there? How are you going to interpret the book when you come and talk to us all?
Well, it's going to be fun. So one of the things that I'm quite passionate about is that faith and fun can go in the same sentence. They are not mutually exclusive things. So the evening will be relaxed. We'll be talking about the film. We may even have the odd impromptu sing-along. And I know that there's a lot of work around Faversham with all the sing-along things. And I know that Reverend Dan is working with some people. So I've yet to see what that will be, but I know that it will be great fun. And yes, I will be talking about the film and talking about how these different aspects of the film then reflect faith and life and love. So I'm expecting a really good night. I know that there'll be a lot of people involved, and I have also got a life-size cut-out novice nun who, by chance, I happen to have called Maria, and she is going to come along as well, so people can have their photograph taken with her, and they can become the twirling Maria and put the smile on her face. So it'll be a lot of fun.
A social media opportunity as well for everybody. How marvellous.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Photographs are, all over the place.
It's probably recommended people do a bit of homework beforehand and maybe brush up and watch The Sound of Music before they come along. But that's not essential, is it?
It's not, and it's interesting. When I had the book launch about 10 days ago, the church was full and loads of people were there, which was amazing. And so many people said, I need to go home and watch The Sound of Music. I'm certainly not on commission for The Sound of Music, but, if people can go home and watch it, perhaps with the renewed way of looking at it through the lens of God's love, then I feel as if I've found what it is that God's put me on the planet for, which is obviously what the whole film is all about, living the life you were born to live.
And if people would like to buy the book and find out more about it, and they're unable to go to St Mary's, how do they find out more about the book? Where can they purchase it?
Well, you can purchase it directly from my website, which is www.bryonywood.co.uk. And my name, Bryony, is spelled Bryony Wood. So www.bryonywood.co.uk. And if people order it through me, then I sign it if they would like it and gift wrap it in an appropriately themed gift wrapping and send it off. But of course, they can buy it through local bookshops, particularly independent bookshops, which we're all trying to, support. And they will be able to order it in through their regular suppliers. You can get it through online sites like Aslan Christian Books and Eden Christian Books, and you can also get it through Amazon as well. So there are lots of ways of getting it. Waterstones have got it on their list as well. So all of these places can get it in if they haven't got it in stock already.
Marvellous. Bryony Wood, I look forward to coming along and seeing you at St Mary of Charity. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
You're very welcome. It's really lovely to talk to you, Mike.
If you'd like to find out more about Bryony Wood, about the book, The Sound of Musings, and about her appearance at St Mary of Charity Faversham on the 27th of June, you can discover all that at bryonywood.co.uk.